So let's just do this. I'm going to guess. Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you are doing well. We're going to be doing a couple of stories about JP Morgan, Chase Bank, and Fitch right now. To say that there is a lot happening in the banking sector is an understatement, and we are going to continue to report on this and bring the truth to light as this banking crash gets underway. Now, we've already seen the first wave, and I explained a few months back that we are going to go through an eye of a storm. Everything was going to be okay, and then we were going to start seeing the next banking crash start at the end of July, which it did. Um, that was Heartland. And then I said we were going to see another banking fiasco on the, was it third week of August, by the third week of August. So we're still waiting for that. That's what, coming in a week. We should be expecting that. But today we have two stories about JP Morgan Chase. So the first one we're going to do, and thank you to everybody that hits the thumbs up. Actually, you know what's funny? You guys are so great, gentlemen and ladies. And there are certain stories that the algo just does not want to get out there. There could be like literally 80% thumbs up and it doesn't go anywhere. It just blows my mind. But I thank you so much for your support. Let's go first story out of CNBC, and it's entitled Fitch warns it may be forced to downgrade dozens of banks now, including JP Morgan Chase. What? Wait a minute. JP Morgan Chase is like the #1 bank in America, right? They're the biggest. How could the biggest? Now let me explain something. You remember, type 1, if you remember, Jamie Dimon coming out right after the first downgrade of government debt and saying this was preposterous. It was, I'm putting words in his mouth, but it was a joke. Pretty much Jamie Dimon laughed this off. Now, do you think Jamie Dimon's laughing right now? Why would Fitch have the guts to come out? And it is guts. And remember, Moody's and Fitch now are ahead of the curve. Now, are we already seeing a banking crash? Absolutely we are. The FDIC, all those acronyms, they came out and said, we saw a leaked document or a leaked video that said that the banks were crashing back in November and that they didn't want the public to know. And the Federal Reserve came out and in a letter stated in the springtime that back in September, over 700 banks had contacted them saying they were pretty much insolvent and they needed a bailout. And so Fitch and Moody's to come out this far ahead of the public figuring it out is actually pretty unheard of. They are usually, by and large, late to the game, always. In 2008, they were criticized for not jumping the gun sooner, like really jumping ahead and telling people, warning people. And so you are seeing that now. Now, what is really exciting about this is type 2, if you were sort of ignorant, and it's okay in 2008, you just really didn't see it coming. And I don't blame you. And the reason why, because we didn't have the internet like we do today. As a matter of fact, YouTube was just a couple of years old. Very few people were on it. As a matter of fact, I know the very first financial YouTuber on YouTube personally, buddies with him, and there was no information sharing, right? So it was very hard to get information out. Now, today, we have so much information at our fingertips between all different types of social media, and we now can see things ahead of time. Now, with this being said, now think about this. We just went through a banking crash that on a dollar for dollar basis is equal to all the Great Recession banking crashes, right? We've already had that happen this spring. All right, put that badge on. We've all went through it. Score. Now we've got the two largest credit rating agencies, two of the largest, out there saying now they're not only downgrading multiple banks, they're going to have to look into downgrading a bunch of other banks. And you know what? I'm not going to be able to find it right now, but I want to do a video for you guys pretty soon here. Let me see if I could flip through it. I probably can't get to it in time, but I want to talk about borrowing deposits. There is a system in the banking system where you can actually pretend to have a bunch of deposits. You're actually leasing deposits. I know it sounds crazy, but you're going to find out pretty soon about some information about Truist Bank and the amount of deposits they actually have. And we see right now where there's banks like Wells Fargo years ago faking accounts. So that's happening right now. And so this is absolutely stunning to me that you are witnessing this. The downgrades right now before the public has figured it out. This is exciting. Why? Because you are going to be able to do something about it. This is why I've been wanting to prepare as many people in the auto industry, starting a business right now. You want to have a small business in cash so that you can take advantage of the situation, not be leveraged in debt. I teach that in the side hustle course, the real estate course. I teach these principles because I want strong-minded human beings around the world, but really in America, I want the middle class to hold on to the wealth. We can't hold on to the wealth without education, knowledge, and this is it right here. So sorry, I digress. Let's dive into the story. Out of CNBC, Fitch warns it may be forced to downgrade dozens of banks, including JP Morgan Chase. It says here, a Fitch rating analyst warned that the U.S. banking industry has inched closer to another source of turbulence. The risk of sweeping rating downgrades on dozens of U.S. banks could even include the likes of JP Morgan Chase. The rating agency cut its assessment on the industry's health in June, a move that analyst Chris Wolf said went largely unnoticed because it didn't trigger downgrades in the bank. But another one-notch downgrade of the industry score to A+ from AA- would force Fitch to reevaluate ratings on each of the more than 70 U.S. banks it covers. Wolf told CNBC in an exclusive interview at the firm's New York headquarters, if we were to move it to A+, then that would recalibrate all our financial measures and would probably translate into negative rating actions, Wolf said. This is a really big deal, a very big deal. And I'll explain it as easy as I can. When our credit rating agencies downgrade pretty much an entire sector, especially in the financial services or the banking, other countries that want to do business with us stop. They pause, they stop, they evaluate, and they go, what's going on here? This is rare. This is extremely rare. As a matter of fact, just to see the downgrade of U.S. debt was just phenomenal. I mean, these are not shockwaves in the financial markets, these are earthquakes. And I understand that most people, all they do is they look at the value of the Dow Jones. Type 4 in the comments if you understand that the value of the Dow Jones or the NASDAQ or the S&P does not equate to what's really happening in the economy. Type 5 if you don't understand what that means, because it's good that you don't understand that stuff, because you need to start paying attention to what's going on, because right now, there are a lot of things threatened right now. The value of real estate, the value of the stock market, the value of your 401k. These are very, very serious things that are happening right now as we speak. As a matter of fact, when I started the channel, I explained how I was early to the game, sold my stocks before the dot-com bust, and I sold all my real estate in 2006 and a half. And I warned everybody, this is the time I got 3 years ago to start warning, but also walking people through hand by hand, just like literally walking you through this collapse and explaining the different phases of the cycles. So right here, you have Fitch, somebody from Fitch saying that if we were to move to A+, downgrade it from AA-, that would recalibrate all of our financial measures. The credit rating firms relied upon by bond investors have roiled markets lately with their actions. Have you noticed that the 2-year or the 10-year bond is sitting at like what, 2.2? This is insane. A 30-year fix today, an average 30-year fix is sitting between, this is owner-occupied FHA right now. We're looking at 7.1 to 7.2%. That's exciting because that's where I started my real estate career in the year 2001. That's how much I was paying. And I've gotten to go through 3 interest rate cycles. So I've seen what's happening to real estate over the course of 23 years, 22, 23 years. And it is so exciting to be a part of this one, because as people now are locked in their homes, they can't move, they're going to be panic sellers here pretty shortly. And that's what's really exciting when we start to see the velocity of transactions pick up. Sorry, let's move on. So this is a warning from JP Morgan, and it is about China's banking industry. Now, this story is out of Gillette News, and it's entitled, China's Shadow Banking Industry Faces New Concerns as Wealth Manager Misses Payments. Now, I've told you this before, I'm going to say it again. When there's a collapse, everyone is looking for a boogeyman. Everyone is looking for someone to blame other than themselves, okay? And when Jamie Dimon came out and was essentially laughing off and ridiculing and scoffing at, Moody's downgrade of the government debt, That showed me right there what was going on. As a matter of fact, I did a story about Brian Moynihan, the Bank of America CEO, also scoffing at the new Basel III rules, getting upset. And there was a couple people that commented on one of my videos and said, "You're alarmist." I'm like, "No, you have no concept of what's going on." Like, zero concept. And he came out the next day and said, literally, if you force me to hold back 2% of my deposits right now, 2%, I'm gonna have a problem staying competitive with the other banks around the world. That's his shot across the bow of telling you, I don't got the money to do this. I have to stay highly levered or I'm gonna fail. That is the shot across the bow. Now you're gonna have, what I'm gonna explain right here is JP Morgan doing the exact same thing, all right? So they are facing downgrade. Everyone is facing a downgrade. This is gonna bode, it's gonna be very poor. It's gonna be bad for the stock performance, right? And when bank stocks go down, they have a really hard time doing a handful of things, one of which is raising money. If they get downgraded, they're going to have a hard time getting a good rate of return, or sorry, a good credit score. When their credit score goes down, they have a hard time borrowing money from their banks. And what's funny is that people think that just because you're the biggest, that you own everything. JP Morgan does not own everything. Chase Bank does not own everything. Highly in debt. As a matter of fact, BlackRock, everyone thinks of BlackRock, oh, they're the biggest, they're the biggest. Yeah, cool. They just lost, about a year ago, they lost their headquarter building and took a 50% haircut on that. Or they're actually, sorry, the company that loaned them the money. So here you got the largest fund in the world, essentially, that everyone's scared of. It's in the middle of losing its headquarter building. Oh, and it's because they don't own it. All right, so people need to really sit back and think about what's happening here and what kind of opportunities you can make from this. All right, China's shadow banking industry faces new concerns as wealth manager misses payments. Says one of China's largest private wealth firms, try and pronounce this one, Zhongji Enterprise Group, has triggered fresh anxiety about the health of the country's shadow banking industry. Isn't that interesting? Keep going on. Shadow banking, weird. The company, which manages about 1 trillion yuan, which equals about $138 billion US dollars, has missed payments on multiple high yield investment products. Zhongxing's troubles came to light after some of its corporate clients disclosed overdue payments by a trust unit. Concerned about potential contagion, the banking regulator has established a task force to access the risks at Zhongxing. I'm just going to keep different iterations. As one of the major players in China's 2.9 trillion trust industry, Zhongxing combines characteristics of commercial and investment banking, private equity, and wealth management. Companies in this sector pool savings from wealthy households and corporate clients to provide loans and invest in real estate, stocks, bonds, and commodities. Okay, sounds not too bad, right? Check this out. Country Garden Holdings. We talked about this company before. One of the country's largest developers is on the verge of default. Now, let me remind you that they were in default and on the verge of default a little over a year ago. All right. And then that was the beginning of the storm. And then you entered that eye of the storm because China just papered it over. We got this. We figured out another bank's going to take them over, or another bank's going to help them out. We're good. You see that so often in banking crashes. As a matter of fact, Pact West. Remember, I did a story where I knew that another bank was going down, and I said it was Pact West. I couldn't say it until it hit the headline because the last thing I need is government regulators contacting the ninja. But my point being is that it just disappeared. It just went away. The news articles went away. But then, just about 2 weeks ago, oh, you know what? It's official. We just closed the bank. What? Oh yeah, they were taken over by somebody else. It's just this weird sort of thing. And you've got to look between the headlines and see when there's all of a sudden tons of stories, tons of news, and all of a sudden nothing. What's happening is it's being papered over. We're going to figure it out. Everyone stop talking. China has actually just went out on a limb and said, hey, we don't want any of our economists even using the word deflation. Now, what does that tell you? Type the number 6 if you think that China is falling right now. They're collapsing, and they're just trying to hide it. And the point is that you have to read between the lines. Now watch this. JP Morgan is going to come out here. Check this out. It says here, the turmoil has already impacted Chinese stocks, with the CSI 300 index falling for the 5th time in 6 sessions. and the yuan depreciating towards its weakest level this year. JP Morgan Chase analysts have warned that this turmoil may contribute to a vicious cycle in real estate in China. So JP Morgan is already wanting to pass the buck or point, okay, it's them, or oh wait, it's them. And we need to realize it's actually the big banks. All right? See, because if the little banks are in trouble being involved in commercial real estate, I already know that the big banks are also involved in commercial real estate. They also have a ton of derivatives against Bitcoin, against gold and silver. They're every time the positions rise and they're trying to short them, they're losing money. As a matter of fact, a lot of these banks hold a lot of bonds that they purchased at ultra low rates, and they were holding them to maturity. Well, now as rates go up, they are losing value on the face value of the bond. Think about that. So really, any which way we go in any direction, we have a world inflationary event where all of the economies are trying to run rates up to try and quell buying, to where it pushes you into unemployment. You lose your job, your assets go down in value, like real estate and things like that, because people stop buying. And then what's happening is we're already seeing places like Brazil emerging economies, let's say Brazil, I really don't consider that, but you see these countries that are stopping their rate rise because they can't do it, because it's hurting too much, and they have to start now dropping rates. So we have all this going on, and we have literally every currency on earth inflating itself away. These countries all around the world are expanding their money supply, and what they're actually doing is it's a power grab. As they print money, before the effects of hyperinflation are felt, they're buying up shares of the largest companies on earth. They are buying up land. They're buying up water. Governments around the world are printing money to make the government more powerful. You see, as hyperinflation sets in, they don't care. They own the deed to those properties. The question is, what do you own? Do you own a bunch of worthless dollars? Do you own land? Do you own gold? Do you own silver? Do you own Bitcoin? What do you own? And the truth is, the majority of the population doesn't own anything. The governments have taken over. They've literally bought up so much land that they're closing off areas and saying, no, you can't even mine here. You can't drill for oil here. You can't drill for water. We're going to charge you so much money. And then what's even scarier is the companies that were purchased by the elite through the money printing scheme, they turn around and they take over the utility systems during the next crash. That has happened time and time again throughout the last couple of centuries, where private businesses walk in and go, you know what, you can't manage this stuff. We're going to take over and we're going to charge you. And I think it's really sad. And right now you're seeing it. JP Morgan is starting to point fingers. It's the biggest bank in the country, one of the biggest banks on earth. And I think these are not times to screw around. These are times to get nose in the books, study your butt off, focus, because you are going to miss the greatest opportunity. I missed a couple opportunities that I really regret in 2008. I will not make that mistake again. And I only am here to learn from my mistakes. But remember, you can never learn, you can never grow unless you try. And that is the number one thing that I'm here to warn you about. You've got to try something. You've got to start today. You've got to do something. Type "take action" in the comment section if you're ready to take action. The Economic Ninja is out.